Hi, welcome to Leader's Edge. This is a leadership podcast, and today's guest is Scott Ballard. Scott, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Look forward to the conversation.
Awesome, me too. Could do me a favor, tell me a little bit about how you got to now. Take about 90 seconds. Tell me about you and your business.
Yeah, I started doing what I do today when I was 7 years old, and I've been doing it for 58 years. And it's really about leadership and the impact of leadership in businesses, and the importance of understanding that the greatest deterrent to great leadership is fear. Fear not only in the leader but in the people that you're leading. And if you don't address that fear and remove that fear, you'll never reach the potential, the goals, the result that you want. And so I'm excited to talk about this today with you, Bob.
Well, it sounds like we're kindred spirits here. I think fear is the biggest thing holding us back. I'm going to agree with you 100% on that. And I love how you talk about fear not just being our fear as leaders, but the fear that maybe our followers are experiencing. So, talk a little bit about that, the fear that our followers might be experiencing.
Yeah, if the people we're leading are driven by fear, they're limited because fear limits our brain, it limits our creativity, it limits our production. So the opposite side of fear is joy. So when people are in joy, they perform at the highest level. They have the greatest experience. They create the greatest solutions, and collaboration and unity and teamwork become this unseen momentum that just takes you to a new level. The greatest companies and teams have this secret thing. It's not driven by fear, but it's driven by joy, the joy of achieving, doing this together. You see this in sports all the time. I'm a big University of Oregon football fan, and we're a team now that is working past fear to perform at the joy level. But our leader has to model that, has to lead that, has to say there's something past fear of losing or of not getting the starting position or of not scoring that touchdown. And that is the joy. And when you play or work together with people that are in that mode or in the process of getting there, Bob, uh, the the results are phenomenal, right? We see it all around us.
I love that mindset, right? And that's really about how we get better in life is having that mindset that how we take in information and interact with the world. We have these preconceptions and presuppositions about how we're going to deal with those things. And if you want to default to fear, then you will default to fear. If you want to default to being offended, you will default to being offended. Or if you default to joy, right? If you default to positivity, you default to, and I'm not talking about just having like, affirmations consistently so that like you think that's going to make you happy, but it's truly about changing that mindset about how am I going to interact with the world? How am I going to assume other people are their intentions when they interact in the world in a certain way? Love that.
That's phenomenal. Think about this, Bob. Go watch kids on a playground. They're experiencing joy. They're playing together. They're performing at the highest level. It's we lose that because we let culture, society, leadership steal that from us. But there's a way back to it because we've already experienced it in our life. And if we really want to perform and be all that we're meant to be and complete this vision or mission or purpose for our life, it's found in that. The highest performance is found in that. And so, my work and what I do is to help leaders not only find that for themselves. And so, I was with a group of 12 business owners last week. And so, the first question at this event that I said to them was okay, tonight, what we're going to do is everybody's going to go around and I'll go first. And we're going to say, what is our greatest fear right now that we're experiencing? And so I went and we went around. 5 hours later, the last guy finished, They were transformed by it because they'd never been in a place that was safe and secure, and yet they could say what their fear is. Once it gets out there, it becomes smaller. It's not as impairing. It's not disabling. And then we could go, okay, what is the truth about that fear? And then what's on the other side of that that will bring joy not only to you, but when you're in that state, you bring that to everybody, right? But we have to deal with the fear first, and dealing with it is saying, this is what I'm really afraid of right now, Bob. This is the thing that's scaring me. And when we do this work, it's the results are amazing because nobody is addressing the elephant in the room, and the fear is holding back all the good stuff that we know we're supposed to do,
Yeah,
but we're so afraid we'd never do it. Like that voice in our mind that's saying you're going to fail or not make it or whatever is a lie, because everything on the other side of fear is what you want. Like if you can get past fear, there's it's everything that you've ever hoped and dreamed of since being a young kid to today.
I love it. I love it, Scott. That's it's such a healthy mental attitude, and having that perspective in your daily life, not just in your business, right, but in the rest of your life, right? And
It's
and
all connected. It's
yeah,
all connected.
I get that question a lot. Is like, okay, you're a leadership coach. I'm not a leader. What can you do for me? I typically will point
You
out
are a
that
leader.
you are leading in a lot of areas in your life, right? Especially if
Yeah,
you're a parent, you're a leader. Okay,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, and there's this informal leadership too. It's like, are you one of those people in your office that everybody comes to, if you were not there for a week, would they feel it? You're leading, whether or not your title says that. But when they don't think about themselves as leaders and they don't think of themselves as being influential, they don't have that mindset that they can get better at it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
they don't think of when they talk about leadership. I don't need a leadership coach.
yeah.
Well, okay, but do you want to get better at all of the things in your life? Because the same thing that make you a better leader are going to make you more fruitful in all the endeavors in your life. Are you going to have better relationships? Are you going to have better personal goal achievement? Are you going to have better professional goal achievement? Not just are you going to run your business better? The answer to that is yes.
Yeah, yeah,
But are you going to be able to do all those other things better as well because you have the right mindset and you're bringing joy to what you do? So, Scott, I'm on board, man. I love what you do. Tell me a little bit about how you interact with businesses and the kind of the nuts and bolts side of it.
yeah, yeah. I interact with entrepreneurs, CEOs, business owners, and we interact with questions. So I've been mentored and coached by some of the greatest coaches in the world. But the one thing that I've taken away from my 40 years in business is that instead of bringing a solution, the most valuable thing I can bring is a question. And the question is, what's your greatest fear right now? The question is, what are you tolerating in your life or in your business or in your relationship or in your health or whatever it may be, and why? I was on with a guy yesterday, absolutely brilliant, brilliant guy, and he's just stuck. And I said to him, I said, okay, maybe I'm asking the wrong question. So, what are you tolerating? And he said, I'm tolerating settling,
Yeah.
not challenging myself for all the ability that I have. I mean, he has a PhD, he has he's like, he's settling. And he goes, oh my gosh, the last 9 months, I've just settled. And he goes, I got to stop. I got to stop right now. I'm 40. I'm halfway to 80. It's like I have to change right now. And so in the next 15 minutes, we put together a plan, 3-step plan, and he's already on doing it. I mean, I got an email this morning. He's like, I I just let that happen because I was unaware of the thinking and how I was thinking about my own thinking. And which sounds like a weird thing, but if we don't think about our thinking, we're going to end up not in a good place, right? And so we provoke that in him with, what are you tolerating? Now, he's not a person that's used to be spoken to that way. So at first he was a little upset. And then after he thought, he was like, actually, thank you. And that's when, that's when coaching or what I do, I know it's effective when people say they hate me and I get the text 8 hours later and they go, "Thank you. I know this is the best for me." It's just really hard. Nobody's ever spoken to me that way. So that's how I work with people. I'm not for everybody by any means because I tend to be a bit intense and really, I'm not afraid to say what everybody else is afraid to say,
Well,
and
I
I'm
think
known for that.
there's some value in telling people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear, right? And that's that's where where you have probably surrounded yourself with a group of people that agree with you generally, right? If they're disagreeable all the time, you don't want to hang out with them. So they're going to tell you the things that you want to hear. Yeah, you're right. You're great at that. You don't have any room to grow. You don't need to lose any weight. You look great.
Yep, yep.
Okay, but are you really happy with yourself and where you're at in life, and are you achieving your goals? The reason you're not is because you're settling because you've surrounded yourself with people who just keep telling you you're fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And here's the
And you
thing,
and you you see this in business. I was working with a CEO of a very large company, and I was sitting with them, and they had to make a big decision on laying off a lot of people, thousands of people, or not. And I'm sitting with him, and the board is all saying, "You got to lay it off. You got to do this for profits or stock or all this kind of stuff." And I was sitting with him, and I said, "Well, I will tell you what I think about this because you're asking me. I think it's a very short term fix. And if you let these people go a year or two from now, when the orders come back in and everything's, you're going to be kicking yourself because you're not going to have the people to fill the orders." And he looked at me and he said, "You're the first person in 40 years in my career," and he's the CEO of this company, "that has actually said something to me in a controversial way, in a way that's counterintuitive, and nobody else, because see all these other people sitting here, they're all looking for a raise, a job, or my job, and they're never going to say the thing is contrary to what is would be the norm or what would be
right?
agreeing with me. You're the first person to do that." And I go like, "My job's done." He didn't let those people off. Less than a year later, the business boomeranged back, like scaled back. They had all the people, and I got an email from him. He goes, "Thank you, thank you, thank
Yeah,
you." He goes, "You had the guts to say to me what nobody else in my whole organization would say to me."
yeah.
That's the real work, right?
I mean, that's
That's the
powerful,
real work.
right? It's really
That's the
powerful,
real
and
work.
it's incredibly valuable for senior leaders to have somebody in their trusted circle who's going to say what it is, and they're going to call it exactly the way they see it, and you
Yeah,
don't have to agree with them, right?
yeah.
Like you can give me advice, and I can look at it and go, I don't agree with that, but let's have a conversation about why.
I love
Right?
this conversation.
Tell me about what your ideal client is. I want to make sure that we're getting you exposure to the kinds of people that you want to work with.
Yeah, somebody that's waking up right now or woke up this morning at 3:15 in the morning, has been to every workshop, has listened to every podcast, has read every book, has tried every program, and still knows that they are what I call stuck. They're
Hmm.
stuckedness. They know there's more potential. They know that there's a lot more in them, and they don't know where to turn now. I'm that person,
Nice.
because 58 years in, I'm pretty certain that that's why I'm on this planet, is to ask you. Maybe it's one question, maybe it's, I've got a client that's been with me 10 years. He's the number one doctor on the west coast of what he does. And I said to him, I said, "Doctor, why do you keep hiring me?" And he goes, "Because you're the only person, because I'm number one in my profession, that actually makes me think about what am I doing, how am I going to get better, not get satisfied, and move forward." He goes, "You're it. So you're with me." That's the person I'm looking for.
That's fantastic. I think the value of challenge, right? When you want to see people get to the next level, I always think about a track coach and when you run a distance at a certain amount of time, or you hit the high bar, and you did it great, and a coach just comes over and goes, "Ah, that was awesome. Just keep doing that." That's a recipe for an average high school track guy that's never going to be great, because somebody doesn't say, you know what, let's set this bar 1 inch higher. Let's set that stopwatch right here, and let's see if we can't take 10 seconds off of that last lap.
Yeah.
Unless there's a challenge there for growth, you're going to get comfortable with where you're at. You can win when the bar is only so high. You can keep winning at that. Great. Until you get into competitions at a higher level, and you're not going to be able to stack up because you were never challenged. So to have somebody in your life like Scott Ballard who's able to come in and challenge you is going to be incredibly valuable. That's awesome. I love it. Where do you think the coaching industry is going?
Hmm. Well, I'm not like I think it's being commoditized is
Hmm.
the word that I would use. I think programs, I think systems, I think certification, um, and I think that works for maybe 80% of the people, and they get some benefit from that. But I've never been in that world. I don't have any education, certification, anything. All I have is, you know, 40 years of coaching people in real business and real life and seeing dramatic results. So it's not formulaic. I don't think coaching at its highest level, the best people, it's like a sports coach, the best sports coach, there is still that intuition of the moment that separates them from the second place team, or the really good coach but not the great coach. And I think that's the coaching profession. Anybody can be a coach. I'm amazed. I'm on a flight and I meet five people on the airplane and they're all coaches. And I'm like, how did you? Well, I got this certification. I went to this class and I'm teaching this program. And I'm like, I don't really view that as coaching because I'm trying. I'm doing that out of my own creative genius and provoking people. So questioning people and not knowing how they're going to answer is a big part of what I think it is. So when you go into AI or you go into whatever and it's already programmed, I'm like, how does that work for the individual?
Right.
Like how like coaching for me is bespoke. It's custom for each one of my clients. It's unique. It's a unique experience. I'm going to coach a guy, and we're going up into the highest mountains where we live here, and we're going to spend a whole morning because for him, that's where his mind can get free from his company and the creative thoughts are flow. So I'm not coaching him in an office or his business or whatever. We're going to hike to the top of this big mountain, and we're going to spend the day up there, and so that's not a formula. That's like what's best for Bob. Like, where does Bob experience joy so his mind can be free, so he can collaborate, so he can create new ideas? And he's creating an amazing company because he's open to that.
That's beautiful. What vision came to my mind when you were describing that, Scott, was the difference between a cook and a chef.
Hmm.
Right? A cook can follow a recipe and they'll come out with an okay product at the end of it, but they're never going to create something beautiful.
Yeah, yeah,
So having a formulaic program for an okay result is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's a billion-dollar industry, right? Uh, but I think if we are honest about getting top end bespoke results, if we're looking for getting that thing that actually fits us, then we need to find somebody that is capable of being a chef, of creating, of
yeah,
using intuition and saying, these two things fit together. I know nobody's put chocolate and peanut butter together before, but this is going to be great, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, so
Yeah.
that's what the kind of metaphor came to mind as you were talking about that. One of the things that I think most leaders have experienced is that we learn from our successes, but we learn more from our failures. So, Scott, would you share something that you've learned the hard way?
Yeah, I've written a lot about this. Failure is my greatest teacher.
Yeah.
So I learned about failure at the age of 7. So at the age of 7, I grew up in a small rural town in Oregon. I went to school, had amazing parents, whatever. Went to school, was excited to be there with all my buddies, get to school. And a couple of months into it, Bob, I realized I was not learning like the other kids. So, in my small town back then in the 60s, the teacher actually came to your house at the beginning of the year, the end of the year, to have dinner with your family and talk about your school year and what they were going to be teaching. My teacher showed up. She said, Scott's got to try harder. My dad gave me the look of, you're going to try harder. I did. It got worse. By Christmas break, she took my desk, put it in the corner in the back of the room, and said, you're a dunce. You're an idiot. You'll never be anything. And it started a spiral, down. And in that spiral, I became suicidal. I got depressed. I ran away from home. I'm 7 years of age. The teacher comes at the end of the year and she has the worst news possible. She says to me, you're not going to second grade. You're going to do first grade again. All my buddies flash in my mind. I go, shame, embarrassment, whatever. And I believed her, and I believed the lie that she said that I was stupid and dunce and would not be anything, and it almost killed me. And I wasn't learning from the failure. Luckily, my parents found a tutor for me. The first thing the tutor said, first of all, you're dyslexic and you're not stupid. You just learn differently. I'm trained to help you. That second of all, you were made to do something great. And she would tell me this every day for 5 years. She tutored me every day for 5 years, except for Christmas and Easter. She literally was in my life. And that's how she would start every session. And I began to instead of believe this idea that I'm a failure that my teacher told me, I started to believe, Mrs. Slaymaker, my tutor, that I was actually destined to do something great. And so what failure taught me was that on the other side of that failure, if you keep pushing through the failure, is something amazing. And my whole life, I'm an author now, I'm a speaker, I've spoke to tens of thousands of people. I still can't read and write for my life, Bob. But it doesn't matter because I'm so tied to, I learned from that failure. That failure, I tried to kill myself at 7, 8 years of age. Now
Mm.
that I know that freaks people out, but that's how much failure almost took me out. And if we let failure take us out, that's what'll happen. But if we'll work past that, if we'll go past failure and we'll learn from it, go, okay, is what's the truth about this failure? Well, the truth was that was a lie that she labeled me with, which she should have never done. But it was the 60s. They didn't know. But the beauty of it was I had the option to choose to believe her or my tutor. And when I changed teams, so to speak, and I believe the team, like you're destined to do something great, everything in my life changed. And so that's why I'm such a big believer. Failure is the way forward. Failure is our teacher, but you can't get stuck on failure. You have to say, what can I extrapolate from failure that the next time will make me better? Right? And so in my 20s, I started 10 businesses. I failed at every one. And my wife would say to me, she would always say when it was over, she'd go, okay, what did you learn and what are you going to do next time?
Yeah.
10 in a row, 10 failures in a row. Now, nobody wants a coach that failed that much, but actually, you do. Because I learned from her and from that experience. Then on the 11th one, to start a business at my kitchen table with $100 in industry I'd never been in. And in 7 years, take it to number 3 in the country in selling that product in 42 states, 4,000 people. And we transformed the whole industry because of that. But if I hadn't had those failures to learn from, I would have never known the decisions, the thinking, the ability to build that business.
It's amazing. That's amazing. I love the expression you win or you learn.
Mm.
It's as
You
simple
know who
as that.
said that, right? You know who said that? Nelson Mandela.
He did. I have to remind myself. I have to remind my clients when they're down. It's that it's so easy to dwell on the fact that you didn't get the result that you wanted, but if you're smarter for it, then you just won. Right? You may not have won the outcome that you wanted, but you now have won a further ability to get outcomes that you want, and that I think is even more advantageous to us in the long run. So,
I call it with my clients failing fast. So
yeah.
today I want you to attempt something great 10 times and come back to me and tell me what you learned from those failures. You won't get to 10 because
Oh,
by number 5, you're going to succeed.
right.
But we're so hesitant because our whole education system is based on pass or fail. Do you realize how detrimental that is to the entrepreneur business world? Like it's totally so we have to unlearn that failing is bad and actually failing is good. We have to unlearn that. Now, luckily for me, I was so bad in school. I did graduate high school. I was so bad in school, I never got hung up on failing because I was going to fail. I couldn't do their, they only could teach in one way. I couldn't learn that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
thank God
I
for
didn't get
people
hung
like
up
your
on it.
tutor, right? That could step in and go,
Yeah.
hey, let me reframe this for you. There's a better way for you to look at this and for you to live your life. So fantastic. Tell me real quick, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you if they like to work with you or become a referral partner for you?
Confidencecoach.org. That's our website. You can go there, find all about us, and yeah, that's that's where we're at, and yeah.
That's awesome. Scott, it has been an absolute pleasure. Today's guest has been Scott Ballard. He is the founder and senior coach over there at Confidence Coach, and you can find him at confidencecoach.org. If you're interested in working with Scott, send him a note. He'll be getting back to you very quickly, I'm sure. Scott, thank you.
Thanks, Bob.